Okay, so now I'm in a Bristol Holiday Inn hotel. It looks quite nice. I'm walking around Bristol. I don't know if you can really see outside, but I'm by a big roundabout and there's lots of shops just across the road. And Bristol is such an amazing place, so much better than Birmingham. I'm really happy with this place. I like it. And I went to Bristol Zoo. So sad that it's closing. I think it's an amazing zoo, and it's really there's so much. It's so packed. It's a small space, but it's so packed, and they're just like the lakes are amazing, and the cages. Okay, they look a little old, but they it looks fun, and yeah, so it's a shame that it's closing down next week. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be bigger and better next time. But yeah, it's a shame because there's so much good qualities about this zoo. But anyway, I have a serious topic, I guess, which is the mark of the beast. I posted something this morning about it. Like I just, it's really, really important. I don't want there's this thing, one will be here and one will be taken. The world's biggest problem is overpopulation, and it's really important that something is done to prevent it. It's also really important to make it seem like like murder is not around the corner, and the mark of the beast is part of that. It's basically where we're encouraging people to live. Mark of the beast, live beyond 60. That's what it means. The thing is, though, for something like that to be implemented, you'd be forced to take it. Yes, you'd be forced to live beyond the age of 60. However, what age you choose, it's your choice. But yeah, for it to actually be enforced, there has to actually be another option, and if people don't want to take it, they have to be aware that there is another option. And that's the sad part of it. It's legalizing suicide is such a controversial subject in England, that we've seen, like Coronation Street. There was a doctor who became paralyzed and she couldn't move from like the head downwards, which was so sad. And she wanted to take her life, and there was all these big long conversations about why she shouldn't and stuff. And it's just like, oh my god, I couldn't bear watching it. It's ridiculous. This woman is in the film, not real life, is going to be paralyzed, not going to be able to live her life, not going to be able to do anything with her body. And these monsters are forcing her to live and suffer every single day because of that. If I was in that condition, 100%, I would think you were an absolute monster if you didn't let me commit suicide, or if you didn't help me commit suicide. And it's awful to think that there are some people that 100% agree that if someone is in that condition, they should be forced to live. And it makes you things that if something like that isn't, if someone who literally can't get up or feed herself or do anything for herself is being forced to live, well, how are they going to feel about just suicide of anyone over 21? Assisted suicide for everyone. There's going to be a lot of people that are a bit against it, and there's going to be a lot of people that despise it. But at the end of the day, I'm God. You're not. I should allow. There is one rule that is really, really important, and that is it. I've been wanting to kill myself all my life because I've got really shitty parents, and I know for a fact that in my next life I won't have that, and I'll have a much better life. And I know that sometimes people go through stressful problems, like they go through a divorce, or they just, they go through a really bad patch. And I can understand, discouraging people from killing themselves if they're just going through a bad patch, because they will get over it, and they will, they will look back in years, in a year or two, when they've sorted out the problem and think, oh, I'm glad I didn't kill themselves. But at the end of the day, you don't know what would have happened if you hadn't killed yourself. If reincarnation is true, then at the end of the day, for you could have died and then been reborn into a loving, caring family who really want to look after you, and really can look after you, and aren't just trying to encourage you to go off to heaven and be with Jesus and stuff like that. And it's just like, you don't know what your life would have been if you had killed yourself. And I do believe in reincarnation, so I do believe you would have got a new life, and I do believe that everything in your life would be different. And yeah, so that's just how it is, and it's really important that a mark is implemented, and people are given the option to live, or to live is what the option is. But if they did want to speak with someone, and I think though different states and different countries should have different rules. If some states are very keen to get rid of people, then they could just be like, here's a page, sign it, will do an alcohol test to make sure you're not, you're not um, drunk, or you're not on drugs or whatever, because it's really important that people aren't doing it because of some substance abuse or something. But yeah, if someone's sober, not drunk, clear thinking, knows why, maybe they can be a form. There needs to be a form, consent form. If they're under 21, then it needs to be they can't give consent to themselves. The parents need to give consent, and I think if they're under 6, then I don't think that they should even have the right to say whether or not they want to. They need to find grandparents, and if grandparents are saying yes, and or saying I want to go into the rapture and I want my kids to go with me, and if the parents, and if there's no one else for them to stay behind, then then that's how it is. And I watched a film yesterday, which I was half asleep, so I wasn't really watching it. I was kind of like trying to fall asleep. I was really tired yesterday for some reason, but yeah, there was, someone was in prison, and she got pregnant, and she wanted to keep the baby in the prison, and she was saying to the grandmother was basically said that she'll have to sign a form saying that I can't look after the child, and that way the baby would stay with the person in the prison. And I feel like the same should happen with the rapture. If people want to go in the rapture, and if they have children under the age of 6, the people should always look to see what other alternatives there are there grandmothers, grandparents, or maybe even aunties. Is there aunties that are wanting to take it? With aunties it is slightly different, because some aunties might be busy with other children, and it's complicated, like if the parent really, really wants their children to go with them in the rapture, and if the aunties are just like, I don't really care, then no. But if the aunties are 100% fighting for it, then yeah, encourage them to stay. But I guess it'll be a battle of who gets, because it really depends. The thing is, though, I find that strong Christians, because we're only talking about strong Christians, we're not talking about just loose Christians that will probably find out and hear my telling of the Bible and be like, oh yeah, of course that makes more sense. I'm sure there's loads and loads of Christians who say they're Christians and say that they maybe even they go to church or whatever, but as soon as they hear my telling, oh yeah, that makes much more sense, and okay, the mark of the beast is live beyond 60, of course I'm going to take it. The number of people that are actually going to take the whole I will die for Jesus, I think that's so few. So I'm hoping it's few, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know who would be willing to, but I know there'll be a lot of people that would be willing to die for Jesus, and yet wouldn't actually kill themselves for Jesus, because they'll be like, that's silly. I don't believe Anna's the Antichrist. I don't think. I mean, I want to implement some sort of contract and some sort of form. When it comes to the Queen of England, I have no interest in the role of the Queen of England, but she's the head of the church. She has to denounce herself from that. That's one thing she has to do. She can't be the head of the church if I'm here and talking to the world about what I believe. She has to stand down, and I feel like her standing down will give me the power that I need to do that. But yeah, so that is what I think. I just needed to say, and yeah, so I think, and if you're under, if you're under 5, you need consent with grandparents as well as parents. If you're 6, I mean, 6 is young, 6 is really young, but at the same time, I can imagine there being a lot of 6-year-olds being like, no, I don't want to stay with my grandparents. I want to go with this. I want to, and in those situations, if a 6-year-old is old enough to remember their parents, and it's, I don't know, it's complicated. Maybe you can have different rules on it. I know in England, assisted suicide is like so frowned upon, and so maybe in England, if you wanted to have it, well, you have to implement the mark of the beast. But at the same time, if you want to give like free counselling sessions to anyone that's willing to take it or something, and put through like an hour counselling session or whatever, that's
Anna, who are you talking to?
a video. But yeah, it's that's just that's, I don't know. England are very, very fussy and very frown upon this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it needs to happen. And if it needs to happen, it needs to happen, and that's just how it is. And yeah, anyway.